Why does eating carbohydrates and fats together cause insulin resistance, diabetes, and a whole host of metabolic diseases? Are the fats or the carbohydrates to blame? What happens to the pancreas, the brain, and our muscle tissues when both are consumed within the same meal? Today, you will easily understand why modern man is plagued with heart disease, high blood pressure, Alzheimer's, and yes, even cancer. As you will find out, all of these illnesses sadly have the same root cause. Welcome to the Resilient Diabetic. This is the channel we turn ordinary, struggling diabetics into extraordinary, well-controlled diabetics. If you are brand new to this channel, I welcome you. My name is Sampat. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that gray notification bell. That way, you will be alerted when new life-changing episodes have been published. And if you've learned something new today, please smash that like button for me. As with all my videos, this should not be considered personal medical advice. This is my interpretation of the latest research. If you want medical advice, please always consult your physician. According to new research from JAMA, and if this is not a powerful wake-up call, then I don't know what is. Exactly 52.3% of the population is now either pre-diabetic or diabetic. In my opinion, there's a technical cover-up in play. There is no such thing as pre-diabetes. This is straight up type 2 diabetes. If our healthcare experts tested serum insulin levels instead of blood sugars, you would see that over 90% today are metabolically sick. This is because type 2 diabetes actually happens in two phases. The first phase takes approximately 10 to 15 years. This is where there's a slow increase in insulin resistance. The pancreas is then put under tremendous amount of pressure and has to compensate by constantly increasing insulin output. This is what's known as hyperinsulinemia. At first, hyperinsulinemia keeps blood sugars relatively normal, but because insulin is high at this critical junction, metabolic diseases are already present. But then suddenly, something changes after decades of rising insulin resistance. Hyperinsulinemia can no longer keep up with the pace of insulin resistance. Pancreatic beta cells, responsible for insulin production, aren't able to keep up. These important beta cells then begin to fail, and this is when blood sugars rise, and it does so relatively quickly. It only takes 2 years or so before full-blown type 2 diabetes is then diagnosed. Beta cell production peaks and eventually starts to fail. The progressive decline in insulin production is often called beta cell dysfunction or sometimes pancreatic burnout. So in other words, if our esteemed healthcare experts checked insulin levels first along with glucose, they would catch diabetes decades in advance before damage is even done. Our first main question then is, what causes the initial resistance and then the burnout or the destruction of the pancreas? In order to answer that, we need to take a few steps back and look at our history. For around 1.4 to 2 million years, we humans have struggled to get enough energy to survive. Imagine that you're a hunter-gatherer prior to the agriculture and cultivation of plant foods. All you would have is a spear and a primitive knife. That's pretty much it. you're not going to find a lot of carbohydrates in the wild. In fact, you might struggle to find any plants that is non-toxic, because you must remember most plants are poisonous. To survive, you're going to have to kill animals and fish, but to be efficient, you're going to eat the entire thing. Nothing goes to waste. These animals, as they grow, are, however, trying to get enough energy to also survive. Some species may not have a lot of spare energy in their bodies. Our hunter-gatherer ancestors who set our current genes and DNA were eating a very high protein to energy ratio foods. They were always looking for ways to increase energy content in their diet. They did this by using the organs, the brains, the long bones to get as much of the nutrients as they could find. As a result of these hunter-gatherer ancestors, our genes and bodies have been hardwired. We as humans throughout history have evolved to be a protein-eating, highly active, fat-burning machine. We have never had access to carbohydrates and fats based around the clock, where insulin has to be elevated all day long. This combination is almost never found in nature. Foods that naturally come from nature were either high in protein and they contain some fats, or they were carbohydrate-rich foods which are naturally low in fats and low in protein. Which, I may add, and this is so important, these carbohydrates, like fruits, were only seasonal, and it was given to us by nature to fatten us up for the upcoming harsh winter months. The bottom line, we as a species have never been exposed to foods that provide two sources of energy at the same time: fats and carbohydrates. Notable exceptions to the rule include mammalian breast milk, designed to grow baby mammals as fast as possible, are the new dietary choices and guidelines, which started in the mid-1900s to blame. With so much conflicting information, it gets hard to know what should we eat. The food industry, who is in charge of all of our health organizations, have secretly set the standards, and the deceit is virtually impossible to unwind. That is, until today. Is it fat or the sugars we should be concerned about? Or both? It seems the answer to that question is a little complex. Thanks to the breakthrough in modern science, we now have one of those answers. Elevated fat and sugars in the bloodstream at the same time, mind you, appears to accelerate diabetes. The culprit is a receptor known as GPR40, found on the outer surface of the pancreatic beta cells. GPR40 was recently discovered and responds to fatty acids, alerting the beta cells to their presence in the bloodstream. Beta cells, as we now know, respond to glucose surges after a meal by producing a sharp increase in insulin. But when fat is present in addition to sugar, the GPR40 protein causes the pancreas to produce even a greater insulin output. This frequent overstimulation of the beta cells is tied to persistently elevated insulin levels, speeding up the process of bodily inflammation, leading to all of the metabolic diseases like heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, Alzheimer's, and yes, cancer. What has recently changed? Science once thought all these metabolic diseases had separate causes. No, they are all initiated by the presence of high circulating insulin levels causing inflammation, along with the eventual elevation of blood sugars, which then physically damages all of our body cells. When we do eat fats and carbs at the same time, we not only generate higher than normal insulin levels, but what you may not be aware of is what happens at the brain. There are separate areas of the brain that evaluate carb-based foods and fat-based foods. Both are involved in the release of dopamine. But when carbs and fats are in the same food together, the result is what the researchers call a supra-addictive effect. That is, both areas of the brain get activated at the same time. Dopamine goes exponential, thus a bigger feeling of reward or a high similar to taking drugs gets produced. This combination of fats and carbs in the same food is why we find foods such as French fries, donuts, and potato chips so irresistible. That is also why the phrase "you cannot eat just one" came from. An addiction is created just like any other drug. This supra-addictive effect on the pleasure center of the brain, along with the fact that more insulin is released when both carbs and fats are eaten together, explains the roots of the current metabolic diseases, especially type 2 diabetes, that goes along with it. We know what excessive carbs and fats have on the pancreas and the brain. What about the muscle tissue and liver? In other words, what is gumming up the door locks of our body cells, especially our muscle cells, preventing insulin from letting glucose in? First, we must note it is the muscle tissue which is responsible for soaking up all of that glucose or that sugar after we've eaten. Second, as we age, we begin to lose all of that precious muscle tissue because of two other reasons. A, we're not consuming enough protein. And then B, our physical activity declines as we age. The body goes by a very simple rule. If you don't use it, you will lose it. And it is that muscle tissue we need to preserve if we want to prevent all of these metabolic diseases from occurring in the first place. So the next logical question is, where does the body put all of that glucose after a meal when the muscle cells and the liver are already full? Why? Because we are instructed to eat carbs and snacks around the clock. And mind you, take this into account. We have less muscle as we age, which means less storage of glucose. The answer is called de novo lipogenesis. And what does that technical term mean? This is the creation of new fats from something that wasn't a fat to begin with, carbohydrates in this case. The liver has no other choice but to convert the carbs we are continually eating into fats because it has nowhere to store the glucose. But these new type of fats that are then stored in all the wrong places, inside the muscle cells, in between all the body organs, and within the liver. It is these type of fats you cannot see or pinch underneath the skin. Over time, these fats continually build up inside the muscle cells, creating toxic fatty breakdown products and free radicals that block insulin from signaling the process. When that happens, no matter how much insulin we have, glucose cannot get into the muscle cells. The end result, blood sugar levels begin to build up in the blood. But there's a deeper, more sinister fat that does more than just raise insulin levels when eaten with carbs. More polyunsaturated oils, also known as vegetable oils, are produced globally than is beef, poultry, cheese, and butter combined. In fact, Vegetable oils is now the most consumed food in the world after rice and wheat. These polyunsaturated vegetable oils are extremely high in omega-6 fatty acids, which, if you've been following or subscribed to previous episodes, are pro-inflammatory. The greatest nutritional con ever devised on man is really a misnomer, and that is the term vegetable oil. That is the single smartest marketing strategy ever made by an industrial chemical company. Who does not think vegetables are healthy? Taking a putrid smelling waste product from seed crops that were initially designed to be used as soaps and lubricants for heavy machinery, not for human use, mind you, let alone put in our mouths and then turn into an edible product for human consumption, was brilliant. And second, by buying and controlling all of the board members on the American Heart Association from the very start of the organization, thus brainwashing the entire country and the world into believing these are healthy, ensured their success. Neither soybeans or rapeseed or canola are vegetables. More accurately, these should be called industrial seed oils. If you simply press olives between your fingers, you will be able to express a little bit of their oil against the fingers. Not so with soybeans or even corn. You can squeeze a soybean as hard as you like and as for as long as you like, and you're not going to get any oil out of it. Scientists have to turn to the use of chemical solvents to get the oil from soybeans. This is a very complicated, dirty, messy process, especially in the step of trying to get rid of that putrid smell that it produces. I personally call these vegetable oils death in a plastic bottle because they are so inflammatory and unstable as it oxidizes when it's heated. So the absolute worst combination on the human body would be a diet high in vegetable oils and refined carbohydrates. This is that 1-2 punch that is the direct cause for all the illnesses we're seeing today. Remember this, the world as a whole started to become sick at the start of the Industrial Revolution, when the bulk refining and the transportation of sugars, flour, and these seed oils began. These exclusively high carbohydrate and fat calories together are mostly devoid of two of the most important macronutrients and micronutrients we need. And that is our protein and minerals. They only add energy to our diets without much in the way of satiety. And as you know now, the double punch. Foods that are high in carbs and fats together produce more of a brain reward and are addictive. This begs the next question. How do we fix this mess? And the answer is actually super simple. We have to go back and understand how man's history influenced our genes and fixed DNA. The human body will eat and continually eat until it's had enough protein. That is the key. And unfortunately, there are huge economic factors here. Protein is always the most expensive macronutrient. Refined carbs and fats are always the least expensive. That is why, if you have not noticed, obesity and poverty now go hand in hand. Those who are the poorest in the Western worlds are also the heaviest and metabolically the unhealthiest. Am I saying to only eat protein-based foods? No. Listen to me carefully. Our bodies, thus our overall health, will require 6 things: high quality animal-based proteins, fats, the right types of carbohydrates to get in all the vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants we do need. And what carbs would that be? What is known as nutrient-dense carbs, eating a wide variety of above ground, and I will repeat this, that is grown above ground, brightly colored, non-starchy greens and vegetables. This group will provide the fiber, the B vitamins, and the other critical antioxidants we desperately need. If you completely exclude any one of these entirely, including fats, you're going to have a certain hunger that you will never be able to satisfy. Speaking of fats, which fats can diabetics really eat? Would the right omega-6 to omega-3 ratio in your diet change insulin sensitivity, provide for superior blood sugar control, and improve heart health? Can we use saturated fats like butter, lard to cook our foods in? The first link you will see will be to subscribe to this all-important life-changing channel. The second will be the link to the playlist mentioned on fats. So, have a productive day, and we will see you soon with another new episode, which are generally released weekly. Bye for now.